Tonight, the Israeli president's message to the United States Congress.
The people of Israel are grateful to no end for the ancient promise fulfilled and for the friendship we have forged.
On the 75th anniversary of the founding of the Jewish state. Plus, Whistleblower Unbound.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
House Republicans put on center stage IRS workers involved in the Hunter Biden case. And the latest in the 2024 race for the White House. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel on clear display in the U.S. Capitol. Welcome to Faith Nation from our news bureau in Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, Israel's president addressing a joint session of Congress today, pledging, despite disagreements, the United States and the Jewish state will always remain family. CBN's Hillary Powell followed the Israeli leader's remarks, which didn't shy away from domestic concerns, including a fight over judicial overhaul and settlement construction. She joins us now from Capitol Hill. Hillary, it looked like a very positive reception to President Herzog's appearance today.
That's right, John. He received a standing ovation from both sides of the aisle that lasted several minutes. He even called the atmosphere really just exciting, and he said that it is in lieu of the 75th anniversary of statehood for Israel. He used his address to actually reaffirm what he calls the irreplaceable bond between the United States and Israel, and to also condemn any form of anti-Semitism.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the State of Israel.
Claps and cheers for Israel's head of state and an overwhelming show of bipartisan support to affirm America's ironclad friendship with Israel.
To celebrate 75 years of Israeli independence with our greatest partner and friend, the United States of America, my soul is overflowing with pride and joy.
In a tribute to Harry Truman, the first American president to recognize Israel as an independent Jewish democratic state, his grandson, Clifton Truman Daniel, was honored as a special guest. The address turned from fanfare to business as Herzog doubled down on preventing the Iranian nuclear program.
Allowing Iran to become a nuclear threshold state, whether by omission or by diplomatic commission, is unacceptable.
He also pointed to ongoing protest in Israel, calling demonstrations a necessary part of a strong democracy. Earlier this week, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby also mentioned democracy while expressing concern over Prime Minister Netanyahu's plans to overhaul the country's judicial system and ongoing settlement construction in the West Bank.
We want to see Israel be as vibrant and as viable democracy as possible.
Hoping for eventual peace with Palestinian neighbors, Herzog highlighted how Israel was founded on faith and tolerance, both cornerstones of democracy. He also strongly condemned anti-Semitism, which got another round of applause.
Vilifying and attacking Jews, whether in Israel, in the United States, or anywhere else in the world, is anti-Semitism.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby confirms President Joe Biden has invited Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the United States in the fall. John.
And Hillary, did the president say where that expected meeting will take place?
The White House didn't go that far. They have not exactly said where they will be meeting. We know by tradition in the past that a prime minister traditionally has been invited to the White House, so opponents and supporters will be waiting to see where the two actually shake hands. On Capitol Hill, right, Hillary Powell, CBN News.
All right, CBN's Hillary Powell, thank you so much. Well, also on Capitol Hill today, 2 IRS whistleblowers testified before Congress alleging political interference of the president's son, Hunter Biden. Special Agent Joseph Ziegler and his former investigation supervisor, Gary Shapley, say their findings supported felony charges against Hunter Biden rather than the misdemeanor charges he's set to plead guilty to next week. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has been tracking today's hearing. Caitlin, how did lawmakers respond to the allegations from the whistleblowers?
John, Democrats largely dismissed the two IRS agents' claims. Ranking member Jamie Raskin calling the fact that Congress is even looking into Hunter Biden's case an example of interference.
The ongoing case that the majority invites us to interfere with today is actually a striking illustration of the success of the American system of independent prosecutors operating under the rule of law and outside the realm of the kind of political influence my colleagues are trying to exercise today.
Raskin went on to say that the president's son made mistakes and is now prepared to be held accountable for them. Republicans, meanwhile, said Hunter Biden was given preferential treatment and questioned whether the president himself would have been implicated had investigators not been held up in their work by administration officials.
The Department of Justice engaged in a campaign to delay, divulge, and deny that investigation. They delayed investigators for years, leading to the expiration of the statute of limitations for many of the crimes involved. And they denied investigators the ability to authenticate evidence, serve warrants, question witnesses, and bring charges.
The two witnesses say they came forward because after more than a decade of experience, they've never seen an investigation be so held up or roadblocked.
Assigned prosecutors did not appear to follow the normal investigative process, slow-walked the investigation, and put in place unnecessary approvals and roadblocks from effectively and efficiently investigating the case. A number of times we were not able to follow the facts.
At every stage, decisions were made that benefited the subject of this investigation. For example, prosecutors concealed contents of Hunter Biden's laptop from investigators. DOJ slow-walked steps to include interviews, serving document requests, and executing search warrants. Warrants that were ready as early as April of 2020, but were delayed until after the November 2020 election and never pursued.
The whistleblowers said it's up to Congress to ultimately decide who's responsible for the failure to bring the full extent of charges against Hunter Biden, and stressed that a special counsel should have been and still needs to be appointed for this case. John?
All right, CBN's Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, Mark Claussen is a professor of history and law at Cedarville University. Mark, welcome to you. Let's pick up where Caitlin left off. How big of a bombshell is it that multiple whistleblowers testified that there was political interference in the Hunter Biden investigation?
Well, I think it's a pretty big public bombshell now, although most observers expected this very thing. They already had an idea that this is what they would say, and they even knew many of the facts that they recounted. But now it's all out in the open before Congress under oath, and so that's a fairly big deal at this point. And there's no real incentive for the whistleblowers to lie about this, to obfuscate. Their careers are really at issue here, so in jeopardy potentially. So it seems like this is a pretty big deal.
Well, along those lines, the identity of one IRS agent referred to as Whistleblower X was revealed for the first time today. How significant is that, and could he potentially face retaliatory measures within the agency?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. It's significant because he's now corroborating what happened. It's important to get independent corroboration of the particulars of this ongoing situation. Could he face retaliation? Legally, he should be immune from that kind of thing. But we've known instances in the recent past in which the various agencies involved can sort of bring to bear subtle pressure. They can do lots of things that are very subtle, such as they could move you to a new office. I mean, maybe not literally, but in a basement somewhere, in a closet. They could take away all your job responsibilities. So there are things that they could do and still not be accused of retaliating. And that's the dangerous part of it for the agent potentially, besides all the other things that could happen.
Well, if the allegations of weaponization within the government are true, what do you suggest can be done to change that?
Well, the first thing they want to do, the Congress wants to do, is get as many facts as they can, as many witnesses as they can, as many whistleblowers as they can possibly entice to testify. And then they need to make a clear and forceful recommendation both to the IRS and to the Justice Department to follow up on this, to appoint a special counsel or to bring charges directly, but usually you go through a general counsel first, who would then spend some time investigating this whole matter and then give his recommendation. And he needs to be an independent-minded special counsel, as independent-minded as you can find out there today. And then after that investigation, they could then recommend to the Justice Department to bring charges. Now, the problem you still have, and this is what the sticky point is.
Mark, I'm so sorry. I hate to cut you off. We are out of time. Mark Claussen with Cedarville University, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, from the pulpit to the Oval Office, see the unlikely story of a Texas pastor and presidential candidate who believes he can win in 2024. Welcome back. GOP lawmakers are targeting the President and Homeland Security Secretary for the humanitarian crisis on the border. Today, in a House hearing, Republicans accused Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas of masking illegal immigration numbers by allowing more migrants to enter legally through a system of mass parole.
This is playing a massive shell game by shifting encounters between the ports of entry to the ports of entry. The outcome, tens of thousands of inadmissible aliens entering Customs and Border Patrol and being released into the country. It's the same. Let's just be honest about that simple fact.
The hearing comes in the wake of a Republican-led push to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Well, to election 2024, you're probably familiar with the big names running for president: Biden, Trump, DeSantis, Pence, and more. Here's one, though, you likely don't know: Ryan Binkley. CBN's David Brody introduces us to the Texas pastor running on a platform of healing and hope.
You can do and become anything that you want to be.
Ryan Binkley is trying to go from pastor to president.
I believe in God. I believe in America. I believe in liberty. And I believe in you. And I'm asking you today to believe in me. I'm running for the presidency of the United States of America.
While he's seen as a long shot, Binkley is the CEO of a successful merger and acquisitions firm with lots of money to spend. He's already dropped $1 million advertising dollars in Iowa. 10 years ago, he and his wife also began a non-denominational house of worship in the Dallas suburbs.
We call our church Create Church, based on Ephesians 2:10, that we've been created in Christ Jesus. We're his handiwork to do good things, great things.
And Binkley says he wants to do great things, and running for president is literally a dream, several of them.
About 7 or 8 years ago, God gave me a dream, several in one night. And so one was that I ran for the presidency and I won. 6 or 8 months later, I had another one. And it was, you know, I was at the top of the stadium and somebody announced that I was going to be the Republican leader for the president of the United States. And somebody put a microphone in my hand, and my dream, I went, oh my God, God fulfills dreams, and bam, I woke up like that. So this started, and then there's just a series of it, and to where now God is beginning giving me messages for our country.
What are those messages?
I think what God is saying is he wants us as a nation to start focusing on the least. The next word he gave me was focus on the next generation. The youth. You remember the word about the spirit of Elijah? When he comes, he's going to turn the hearts of the fathers towards the children and the hearts of the children towards the father. So we're under a judgment already in this earth, but God's judgment is for truth, and it's to bring us back to him. We have to start thinking about our kids for the future. And when we do that, I think we're going to get God's heart.
His platform is based on compassion and what he believes is a common sense blueprint for America. It starts, though, with getting our economy back on the right track.
We went $7.5 trillion in debt under President Trump. So my message to America is let's be prudent again. I mean, you and I have a budget. So what I'm recommending is a roadmap to a balanced budget. But us to start pruning and investing is what I'm calling it.
On immigration, he wants tougher border enforcement that also includes a pathway to citizenship, training programs for those in urban America, and desocializing healthcare.
So I want to bring price transparency back. It's the only thing that we purchase as Americans that I know of. We walk into a doctor or hospital and we no longer ask, how much does it cost for me to be here?
While all worthy positions, Binkley faces an uphill climb. The goal is to qualify for one of the first 2 GOP debates next month. He believes it starts with practical solutions and a message of bringing people together, something he says the former president didn't do.
He's not a uniter. I mean, he rallies the base. This is his marketing strategy. You know, it's just, he's a marketer. So he rallies the base to kind of divide us on the right versus left, and that's his passion. I think that's kind of growing a little bit old. You know, in Ecclesiastes it says this: there's a time for war and a time for peace, time to tear down and time to build up. This is a time for healing for our country, but to focus on real solutions that matter. And when we do this, we'll lead economically and we'll lead internationally.
Spoken like a true pastor who is looking to bring a message of healing and hope to America. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, David. The deal with your diet. When we come back, how changing what you eat can transform just about everything in your health. Well, 2 years after a sudden and severe bout of colitis, a young Jordan Rubin lost 80 pounds, along with the ability to walk. Then, a miracle. In just 3 months, he went from a wheelchair to working out. As CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson explains, diet made all the difference.
While serving as a Bible camp counselor, Jordan Rubin became suddenly ill with an inflammatory bowel disease so severe it eventually caused him to lose 80 pounds and the ability to walk.
I didn't understand how a young man who was living for God, I didn't do all the normal things that people do at college. I was ministering to people. I wanted to go into ministry. And here I was, having a fate that I considered worse than death.
After being diagnosed with Crohn's colitis, Jordan saw dozens of doctors over a 2-year period. Then he met gastroenterologist Joseph Brasco.
It was curious to me that he didn't really seem to have any good response to anything.
That changed, however, when Dr. Brasco helped Jordan adopt a diet to help balance his gut microbiome. That's the ecosystem of good and bad bacteria in the intestines that scientists have discovered can have wide-ranging health implications. The key for Jordan was to follow a diet putting lots of good bacteria called probiotics and other healthy foods into his system, while staying away from items that led to the growth of bad bacteria.
12 weeks after I started this plan, I went from 100 plus pounds in a wheelchair to 170 pounds on my 21st birthday, working out on the beach.
Now, years later, the two are sharing the plan that turned Jordan's life around in the book, The Probiotic Diet.
When I was healed, I knew that God had now purposed me to share this message of health and hope with his people all over the world.
The diet is for people struggling with all kinds of digestive problems.
Fatty liver, diverticular disease, certainly irritable bowel, chronic constipation, chronic diarrhea. These are the kind of bread and butter conditions that we see in the office here. And I do believe that these are greatly improved with, if not completely eradicated, with a diet like the probiotic diet.
It begins with taking a daily probiotic supplement, then moving to consume the various foods and beverages containing these healthy bugs.
Think about cultured or fermented dairy, yogurt, and kefir, which is available everywhere. Even high-quality sour cream has probiotics, and cottage cheese has probiotics. Sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickles, if they're made the right way. Apple cider vinegar has probiotics. Kombucha, kvass.
While many of these items may seem new, most are actually very old.
Fermented foods have been part of the human culture forever. maybe the last century or so, that we've started to move away and become so fearful of bacteria and not realizing there are things that are actually good bacteria.
Probiotic foods were very popular in the Bible. And so if you hear about Sarah killing the fatted calf, getting curds, or David delivering to his brothers against the Philistines curds, they weren't simply cheese. This would have been a yogurt or a kefir or perhaps a cheese.
Since the good bacteria are alive, like most living organisms, they need food called prebiotics to survive and reproduce. Fiber, like the kind found in vegetables, helps that good bacteria to thrive in our system. So the diet includes those veggies and other fiber-rich foods like fruit, beans, and whole grains. While a healthy gut microbiome involves adding lots of good bacteria and fiber to our diet, it also involves subtracting some other items. Those include processed foods and sweets, which can lead to a bad bacteria takeover.
We've had many people, and they come in with chronic GI disorders, and we say, look, just get rid of sugar, and please don't add sugar substitutes. We see them back a month, 6 weeks later, and the vast majority of them are significantly better.
So while millions look for relief from painful digestive problems, for some it can be found in the form of an ancient diet full of fermented selections and whole foods created by God. Modern scientists recently discovered this old plan can help us feel better by achieving the right balance of good and bad bacteria in our body. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Some good information. Thank you so much, Lori. Well, a hit series about the life of Christ is now casting a wider net for viewers. That's next on Faith Nation. Well, we close tonight with this. The hit series The Chosen has landed another destination for viewers. Angel Studios premiered its first episode on the CW television network on Sunday. Based on the life and ministry of Jesus Christ and his disciples, the show brought in over 500,000 viewers, outpacing other hit summer shows like Riverdale, Nancy Drew, and The Rising. The Chosen will air episodes from the first 3 seasons each Sunday, wrapping up around Christmas time. The faith-based drama also announced it will continue filming its 4th season just days after the Screen Actors Guild initiated a strike, halting Hollywood productions. Congratulations to the cast and crew there. Well, thanks for watching Faith Nation. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow.